big Molten Giant. That makes it hard against this type of deck.
This is actually a very, very good hand against Zoo. It looks like he's deciding whether or not he wants to keep the Iron Beak Owl. You can make an argument either way, and it is a card that can be good against both Handlock if he isn't sure what his opponent is, and it's still okay against Zoo even if they are Zoo. Certainly we've been seeing a lot of things like eggs, the Nerubian eggs, and the Owl is obviously a really great answer for something like that, especially if you're planning on playing a Hellfire in an upcoming turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have the AoE. The Molten Giant is so important because the lower you get on the health, the higher or the lower cost it becomes, and you put up this big taunter that the Zoo player can't easily push through unless they're playing tech cards like Black Knight and BGH, which I haven't seen done very often. I know players like Alchemix, for example, he loved playing like BGH in his Zoo deck for a long time back when a lot of people were playing Handlock. But nowadays I haven't seen it because the decks become so brutally efficient with small creatures like Undertaker. You don't have room for those tech cards.
Right. And take a look at that. He even Tarei even draws another owl, and he's gonna have some targets for that.
I like it. These guys are emoting. They're showing a little bit of flair and sass. This is already my kind of series, Reels.
I like it a lot. And a really, really strong aggressive start for Chakki, but his opponent has all of the answers.
Well, it doesn't. Well, as much as the Molten Giant, he doesn't have a Taunt Giver, which might be problematic because as much as you can play it for free, can you stop incoming damage?
Yeah, if Chakki does find a continuing pressure, he might be just fine. But you're right. Right now, Tarei, he doesn't have the Taunt Givers, he doesn't have anything like that just yet. He has a lot of time to find it, though. And for the moment, what he does have is a bunch of removal. Chakki is getting in lots of good early damage, but he plays an egg, and his opponent even has the second owl.
All right, he's also drawn into a Twilight Drake. Do you like posturing for a better Hellfire or setting up for a Twilight Drake that's slightly weaker than what you would like?
It's really, really interesting. I think that Owl is a good choice, but even coining out the Twilight Drake is very, very reasonable. It is really powerful. It threatens to trade with multiple things. But when you're thinking about using Hellfire at some point in the game, you probably want to make sure that you're not dying too fast. And just playing a Twilight Drake, it's going to end up getting ignored. I like turning off the egg. It's a little bit slower. Doomguard drawn. Doomguard drawn. So Doomguard is ready to go on turn 5, and that means we'll probably even see the Power Overwhelming get used this turn because he's assuming that he's going to be discarding it to the Doomguard next turn. That's rough. You also want to be careful not to bite off more than you can chew, because if you're using the Power Overwhelming, you are attacking the phase with it, and of course you're lowering the health of your opponent. I like the point you made too. The sooner you play Hellfire, the better, because you don't always have the comfort zone of playing with health ranges as much as you'd like. Right. Chakki actually does something that I maybe wouldn't have necessarily expected, and he wants to have additional resources. He's probably not trying to play Doomguard on turn 5. So he wants to keep the pressure up for longer, and hopefully his opponent has to do something sort of crazy. Wow. Ooh, acidic swamp
Sort of
ooze.
crazy. We see an ooze that destroys an opponent's weapon. This is not an expected card at all in Handlock. What is he trying to fight here with? It's not. And if he can play this game out, win or lose, without having to show off the ooze, he might even get a chance to destroy something like Doomhammer with it or something like that in a subsequent game. And that would be huge. This very, very interesting tech card for Tarei. And he's deciding how he wants to navigate these turns. Hellfire is the immediate answer, but he is starting to get very, very low on life, and he knows that. He understands that. He doesn't even have a Taunt Giver for the Ancient Watcher, the Molten Giant in his hand. So right now, going even lower on life doesn't necessarily save him. Playing the Twilight Drake leaves the minions in play and lets them deal damage maybe even 2 or 3 times. So it's all very, very scary situations for the Handlock player. There's a lot of things he can draw in order to win the game, but super scary. Oof. Scary indeed. And keep in mind that Chakki does have 9 damage sitting in the hand on turn 6 if he went for Power Overwhelming with the combination of Doomguard. So it's not like he's sitting with the most comfortable health amount range either. And he discards the coin.
Wow, great discard.
That was probably the best option at his disposal because you said you want to keep that ooze information to yourself.
Oh, but a Soulfire of his own, but he's got the Doomguard and Power Overwhelming in hand. It would be very risky to play the Soulfire and hope that the Flame Imp gets discarded.
That's
kind of
optimistic if you go for that play.
Kind of an unfortunate draw. And I wonder if he's worried about Taunt Givers now. Of course, most of the Handlock decks have a lot of Taunt Givers. They have the Sunfree Protector. They have the Defender of Argus. He might be worried about putting his opponent too low. Even as it is right now, if he just plays these minions that die to Hellfire, next turn his opponent can play Hellfire and play a free Molten Giant. Of course, he'll be at 10 life. But what are you going to do if you're Tarei?
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And right now, it seems like clearing the board is your priority. He'll drop to 8, in fact, because of the Leper Gnome damage, which puts him within range of the Soulfire and the Doomguard combination. This is bad news, and to come down to the coin flip on whether or not the Soulfire will discard Doomguard.
My gosh. Soulfire, he's almost certain to just go for it. He can't life tap. He's probably going to just Soulfire and hope it does not discard Doomguard. He has 2 out of 3 to win the game. No!
Oh, no! It's completely backfired. And Tarei, oh man, he immediately recognizes that could have been game-ending. Chakki is going to have to go back to the board, but there's 12 damage staring back, so if his opponent draws 2 more damage, that's going to be game.
He hasn't found it yet. He can clear the board, though, and just attack with the Giant. He doesn't have to do anything crazy. It will give Chakki another chance to draw a Doomguard or Soulfire number 2.
But he put him at 2 health, so he only can tap. He can draw once. He can't tap. Both these guys are down to their last draws apiece. I think you first tap to see if you even draw the lethal. And then if you can't, you just Shadow Flame, and then just see what your opponent has.
That's true.
Put him on
1 card.
Yep.
And you have a chance even to just finish the game yourself. Defender of Argus would do it. Now it's a Siphon Soul.
So it's down to the last draw. I believe Chakki only used 1 Soulfire. Correct?
1 Soulfire, 1 Doomguard. Either one of those is what he needs to see.
He's still in it. And
what
off the top, it's a Leper Gnome. He can do it! He can use Power Overwhelming on his Leper Gnome and kill at the end of the turn. What a way to end game 1.
Amazing.
Oh, no.
It was an out I hadn't even considered.
What is this
He knew it right away. What a game. What a game 1. And both of these players played it so well. And it came down to the last draw. He got a little bit unlucky to discard the Doomguard. He had a 2.
He got made up for it. He just wanted the fancy finish.
Maybe it was planned.
If you're going to be losing, at least have fun while doing it.
And a lot of early minions for both players. A pretty perfect curve going first for the Hunter player. He doesn't have any of those swing cards, but this is definitely a great way to make sure that you don't get blown out early, is to make sure that you have that great early curve, and he's got it. Chakki will be looking very, very much to try and have something like a 1-mana Death Rattle in his hand to start. If he can play Undertaker, Coin, 1-mana Death Rattle, regardless of what it is, something like a Leper Gnome, that does a lot of work against the Hunter. It makes it so that Undertaker can't get taken out.
Right. It's so important to doesn't affect the state of the board. So if they're ever stuck fighting from behind, they're going to be struggling for a while to get that 1 or 2 extra damage in, unless they have Unleash the Hounds, which still comes in a little bit later. So like you mentioned, it's going to be important to get this Undertaker snowballing as much as possible. Still taking some time, though, because there is a good synergy with Echoing Ooze, Dire Wolf Alpha, being able to pick off trades with Hunted Creeper.
He thinks that his opponent hadn't mulliganed yet, I think is what happened, when actually his opponent kept his entire hand. And really, really interesting for Tarei, he is playing Explosive Trap in his Hunter deck.
Ah, okay. Well, that's a great card against Zoo.
Leper Gnome and Explosive Trap, oftentimes they don't go together, or at least we don't see them together very often. So Explosive Trap, very much a defensive card, but you know, maybe he's doing something where he's got Explosive Trap and Snakes, and so his opponent is like, oh, he's got Snakes, I'm going to avoid them. and not attack into his minions and make him do it, but then you attack the face and explosive goes off. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it looks like the curve, like you said, is going to continue to pan out, and I wonder what other traps are available to the Hunter player based off the Mad Scientist.
Ooh. Knife Juggler is very, very, very interesting.
Right. You go for the big plays.
That would be a big play if he actually kills the Mad Scientist.
That takes major balls to kind of pull that off, because what you do is you play Knife Juggler, you trade your Haunted Creeper into the Leopard Gnome, and you get 2 creatures that could potentially snipe this Mad Scientist. Profit?
I think he'd be more likely to trade into the Mad Scientist, so that the first knife has two chances to kill a minion.
Sure.
So it increases odds slightly.
What if it disastrously goes twice to the face?
That would be very disastrous. And
oh man,
he's gonna go for it anyways. Knife number 1.
Oh,
ding.
He hits the Mad Scientist.
No! Big plays.
Wow.
All right. I wonder what that trap was. I don't know if he's taken a look at it yet. Okay, it's not an explosive. It's something else. So explosive trap, if he wanted to, would be able to clean up what's going on. Okay.
Okay. Well, shuts down the Knife Juggler, but his damage was done.
I want him to take a look at the trap. I'm curious to see what it is. I wonder if it's
most likely freezing trap, I would say.
Yeah, and maybe he played the Animal Companion. No, okay, it is a freezing trap. All right, you're right. So there might not even be any snakes going on in Tarei's Hunter deck.
I'm okay with that.
But Chakki has the board now. He's
got card advantage. He's got board presence. He's got good burst with Power Overwhelming and Abusive Sergeant to activate this egg.
Yep. And he's got life enough to hopefully keep it going. So the Explosive Trap is going to take care of a couple of his minions. But like you said, he does have the egg ready to go. So he's not going to be out of it yet by any stretch of the imagination. So much damage. His opponent is at 29, but Power Overwhelming is pretty big.
Wow, he's going to get the damage in anyways. Doesn't matter if they end up dying because the Explosive Trap will pop them. So he goes for the guaranteed damage. I like it rather than letting Power Overwhelming sit dead in the hand. Plus, he's got activators for the egg. So the Power Overwhelming is sitting there a little bit more useless.
He's even going to play out the Flame Imp. It makes sense. At this point, his opponent has already played a Hunter's Mark. Even something like Unleash the Hounds would not necessarily be game-ending. Sludge Belcher is a nice one. That is something that is going to help out. Oh, whoa. Direwolf Alpha is a great draw.
That is really nice to get the exact trades rather than make your opponent be inefficient.
This lets him break through this turn and even get damage in. As the board stood, he wasn't going to be able to attack into his opponent for any damage this turn. He could have life tapped to pick something up, but the Direwolf Alpha itself is really great.
Pretty nice. Oh, man. The apologies are unending.
He's even going to get the buff for the Flame Imp. Very, very nice.
Good. Again, as much as you want to play for value with these creatures, you also want to deny the ability to get as many small doggies as you can with Unleash the Hounds.
Savannah Highmane, a great, great card. Not very great right now.
Yeah. Yes, good setup on that one. It's just not very applicable. You have to use what most likely would be the Animal Companion and Kill Command in tandem. Depends on what you roll here. But if you get something like Leok, a super passive card, it's the same as playing the Highmane. Oh, no, he got the Leok.
Well, at least he gets to Kill Command something, but
himself probably at this stage.
He knows that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, he has to overkill the Direwolf Alpha.
7 damage for his opponent showing. We know 2 more is in hand. If he could find 3 more damage, that would be game. He hasn't drawn a Soulfire yet.
No.
So for right now, it actually looks like he might end up trading into his opponent and just grow his board as much as possible, playing the Dark Iron Dwarf and the Flame Imp. And just sort of put his opponent in the same position as last turn, but this time with even less life than before.
There needs to be a miracle, but I don't think there's anything in Tarei's deck that can pull him out of this. Lotheb doesn't do it, and Chakki's going to take game 2, sending him to game 3 with a 2-0 lead, which means that his Zoo deck, once again, going to add another win in the tally mark for the Zoo deck.
I know that on paper he got lucky, But the matchup is one that Hunter is very good in, and given...
You're just going to be sitting there crossing your fingers that you get a big drop. Wild Growth might be too slow for that.
Wild Growth goes from being one of the best cards in the game when you're playing the Druid deck against anything to a card maybe you don't even want in your hand anymore when you're playing against something like Zoo.
Okay, well, Undertaker is the name of the game for the Zoo deck. Chakki's sitting pretty comfortable at the moment. And Tarei, he's dialed in. He's leaning forward saying, please, innervate.
Yes.
Innervate.
Innervate is the card that he wants to see absolutely the most. The good news for him is, even if he doesn't get an Innervate, Chakki's draw right now is not that amazing.
Yeah.
If he goes Undertaker, Undertaker, and it looks like he's going to, and does not draw a Death Rattle minion next turn, it will not be as punishing as it certainly could have been.
Right.
And Tarei will have a chance to climb back in it.
A lot of sarcastic emotes this entire series. You know, I feel like these guys are overkilling a little bit. There are other emotes, you know, the threatens, the oops.
They're very, very sorry.
The greetings.
Oh. He draws a Nerubian Egg, a very good draw. Right now, Tarei doesn't have a great way to remove any of these minions. And so hero powering an Undertaker twice would have been a huge blessing. Instead, the egg comes out, and he even has to use Savage Roar to kill off the Undertaker.
This is interesting. He also has cards like Argent Commander in his Druid deck, which we haven't seen, considering how strong Sludge Belchers are on the turn before it. It might actually play a key to taking out a lot of those 4/4s that we see in the Zoo deck.
Argent Commander is still a great 2-for-1 card. It is probably the prevalence of things like Sludge Belcher that are keeping us from seeing it more often. But it makes sense in Druid more than it does in other places. So it is. I think it's interesting, especially if he is playing a Wild Growth deck. Argent Commander is still a very cool choice for this metagame. Right now, in this particular matchup, though, he's not that excited to have it. Maybe it'll work out. He might still get 2-for-1 from it. As of right now, he's almost certain to just take out the Knife Juggler. He's thinking about silencing, which would be an okay choice, but he probably just wants to take out the Knife Juggler, get it off of the table. He knows how dangerous that Juggler is.
You've seen Chakki's Knife Jugglers. They take no prisoners. I mean, show some respect. Take out the Knife Juggler here. Yeah.
All right.
I can get behind that play.
He takes it out.
Yeah.
He got there.
He dropped the moon on the Knife Juggler. That's what the power is.
So no more Death Rattles for Chakki, but it looks like he's just going to turn on his egg and get multiple 4/4s. It does leave his Undertaker at only 1 health, but his opponent doesn't have a swipe. Fortunately for Chakki, he's like, please no swipe, please no swipe, no swipe.
Swipe.
Swipe, no swiping.
Yeah, well, I was going to go for the other one. But yeah, exactly. You don't want your opponent to swipe, but at the same time, you're putting on slow pressure. You still have Doomguard, which is another card that's very difficult for the Druid to deal with, because there's not easy one mana or one card removal. The spot removal for Druid is very difficult to come by. There's only Naturalize, and no one's playing Naturalize last time I recalled.
Yeah, and Chakki has a lot of things sticking in play. I agree. I don't think we're going to see Naturalize.
Nope.
But right now, it's actually very possible for Tarei to make it back into this game.
Yeah.
If he can trade 2-for-1 with this bear, which looks like it's very likely that he will be able to, Chakki will still have a pretty large board, but things like Force of Nature and possibly a swipe later can clear them out, and he has some very strong minions to eventually fight with. He just goes for the Doomguard, and he's actually going to use the Doomguard to kill the Taunt, which is...
I like it. It's very reasonable.
A pretty good choice. It leaves all 3 of the large minions still alive, and an Innervate is finally drawn.
That's big. You can deny 2 of these creatures on the board.
He can kill a 4/4 and the 5/3.
Yep.
Innervate was a huge draw. Huge draw.
Oh, man. There we go. Showing some variety.
And he's absolutely back in this game, even just on the back of an Innervate.
Well, don't be so sure to call it. If the opponent drew into a Doomguard, for example, it'd be right back at where he started.
That's true.
But I'm inclined to agree. I think this is an excellent way for Tarei to rebound if he can stabilize. And he's got cards like Force of Nature to help him, but he's still taking a lot of damage. My goodness.
Force of Nature will clear out this board if he wants to.
Well, the swipe clear the board too. Still a little clumsy.
He would have to use his hero power to do it, and he'd only be at 1 less life and still have the Force of Nature. He has to decide if he wants to end this turn at 7 and have a swipe in hand, or end the turn at 6 and have a Force of Nature in hand.
I like swipe because you have more ability to use it with a tandem of other cards in the future. Force of Nature costs more. It's going to be hard to combine it, and you're not saving it for Savage Roar.
Right.
That's not your priority. I think using Force of Nature, prioritizing it would be
I think that's very reasonable, and apparently he agrees with you, and he's going to use the Force of Nature to clear out. This leaves him at 7 life, and Chakki now has to find everything to win off the top of his deck.
Okay, well, Dr. Dwarf is pretty resilient, but he can get swiped down. And, ooh, unfortunately, he doesn't have the mana to play both.
Yeah, the egg looks like it's not getting activated anytime soon. It's only 1 more turn until Cenarius comes into play.
Yeah, this
Swipe is going to take care of the 4/4. So this is the same position as before, except only 1 more turn until Cenarius is here. That wasn't a Soulfire.
Well, this is starting to get a little nerve-wracking for Chakki. If he can't push through the final points of damage, Druid can rebound off of these cards.
Cenarius is going to put up the wall. The Shade is almost certain to take out at least one of the minions. I wonder if he'll kill the Flame Imp or one of the 1/2s.
I think you got to play for the value here, because then you still have like trouble with dealing with like something like Defender of Argus if it comes out.
Right.
Yeah. Take out target guaranteed.
Okay, so he's not worried about dying outright.
Soulfire.
Even if he top decks a Doomguard, he doesn't win off of the Soulfire.
No, he's so close. He'd be 1 damage off.
Crazy. He's thinking about how to best use it. I'm not sure if there is an answer for him here. He may not have a way, except maybe to draw the 2nd Soulfire.
Whoa, 2nd Soulfire? Oh, man. This doesn't push through barely for 1 more point of damage. He's going to put him at 2. And he's gotten through taunts. No more taunts exist for the Druid.
His opponent has 9 damage.
Oh,
Savage Roar is +6. That is game.
That's game. 15 damage without even counting hero power. Tarei will now climb back. He has won a game, and we're going to game 4, and Chakki Zoo will be stopped.
Wow, these games have been so close. Chakki still had a chance to win that game, even next turn if his opponent didn't win. Finally, Tarei gets on the board.
These games are so close, man. I'm holding my breath. It's like, he drew Savage Roar. Is that enough to end it? And it was.
The games have been close. The score hasn't been close, but now it's getting closer. No Wild Growth Innervate in the hand of the Druid yet. He's deciding if he wants to keep that Shade of Naxxramas in his opener. On the other side of it, the Shaman player, Chakki, he's got a Harvest Golem, Lightning Bolt, and another deck with Lava Burst in it, which is very, very interesting.
Right, this is, I guess, the Coast Shaman special. They like playing Lava Burst in their deck.
Lava Burst, I usually think of as a card that is very good at closing out the game against other mid-range or control decks. In that case, it means it might be a card that could help him against Druid. He decides to mulligan it away.
It kills off the Yeti really easily, or the Ancient of Lore.
So both players have not much going on in their hand just yet. I'm curious to see if the Shade will get coined out.
Whoa!
Wow. Double Doomhammer.
Doa was right. Doa's like, what if he's playing double Doomhammer?
Never have I ever.
Wow, somebody called Doa right now and let him know, and because he was absolutely right on this one.
Yeah, he will be right back up here. And wow, one golden, one not? No, both golden.
No.
Both golden Doomhammers, of course.
That's the only way to go. Dual wheel Doomhammers, Quad Fury.
Quad Fury. It sounds ridiculous.
Oh, man. Well, there are 2 players in this game. The Druid player also has good tools at his disposal. The coin is really important to fix out the curve in the next couple of turns as well. And then Ancient of Lore, one of the best engines against any kind of mid-range and control deck, so that way you're able to keep up the card count while increasing your board presence.
With the Shade out, I'm curious to see if he'll just decide to Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm is a good card.
It is a
against Druid, but even just killing the Shade outright might be worth it.
It's not like your turn 5, you're waiting to get something out immediately. Like something like Azure Drake, for example, you'd want to prioritize getting out.
When you have 2 Doomhammers, you might need to get them working ASAP.
Yeah,
otherwise you'll never use all those charges.
You have 8 turns of attacking at least.
Right.
I mean, that is playing the long con if you want to go for like Doomhammers 1 attack at a time.
Back over on the Druid side, he's got 4 mana in the coin, so he has 2 5-drops in his hand.
Yeah.
And that might mean that he's just going to go ahead and play 1 5-drop this turn, 1 5-drop next turn. And he's willing to use the Shade to start taking things out. He's not going to wait. This means his Shade will probably die, but if it kills 2 minions, he probably figures he's okay with that.
Value. I mean, that's one of the ways you deny Shaman in any kind of matchup. You outvalue them early on in terms of the board position, and then, like, for example, that's how Priest completely runs over Shaman, because no matter how much they do, they clear the board and outvalue with, like, Cabal, Shadow Priest, Shadow Madness, etc.
And the Druid player does actually have a great hand for playing against a Shaman that isn't being that aggressive against them. He has a lot of minions to trade with early, and he's got the Ancient of Lore to back it up. Double Doomhammer is really not that great for killing minions. It's okay at best.
Is the Doomhammer in anticipation for like the aggressive decks then, are you saying? Or are you feeling like he just wanted to double his chances to get Doomhammer? Double the Doomhammer, double the fun?
We'll probably have to ask him later and try to figure it out. Maybe Rachel will be able to ask in like the interview if he wins.
Gosh.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But
because that's intentional.
It better be, otherwise that's a pretty big mistake for a big tournament.
Oh, man.
I figure it's probably looking at it and going, okay, Alakir's cool, Doomhammer's cool, these are the cards that I use to win the game. But Doomhammer's just better. I like when I draw Doomhammer better and not Alakir, and so you're like, I'm just going to give myself a better chance to draw Doomhammer.
Oh, that's actually a very interesting point. If it replaces Alakir, it accomplishes around the same thing.
It's similar. They are different cards, and you could make that argument too.
You only can make one at a time versus keeping up both Doomhammer and Alakir.
Right. And interestingly enough, in their matchup during the qualifying tournament, these 2 players played against each other, and Chakki had a game where he was playing Shaman and just barely won with both Doomhammer and Alakir. Now he's coming into this tournament, he maybe no longer even has Alakir, and he's got double Doomhammer instead.
Now, we're talking about Doomhammer all the time, but it doesn't seem like it would come out in the past couple of turns. Has an opportunity in the next one. In the meantime, Druid has opportunities to start collecting value off of the Druid of the Claw and Charge, which I feel like is reasonable. And then, of course, you can use your Spectre Knight to start attacking, but he chooses to go for Bear Mode instead, keeping his minions as healthy as possible.
Even if he's expecting something like Hex, he may be figuring he's okay with that getting hexed right now. He does have other large minions in hand. He has another Druid. He has Ancient Allure. He has Cenarius. So he may be like, all right, here's my guy, hex it if you will. And if it doesn't get hexed, it's actually a big problem. So that may be something along the lines of what he's thinking. Lava Burst does get drawn.
You know, with all these Overload cards, I'm surprised he chose to go the Harvest Golem route instead of, well, an Unbound Elemental. But, of course, with you Undertaker, you get the synergy there. So it's just a shame because you know if you overload with Lava Burst and, like, say you get the Spell Power Totem and then you have Lava Burst to kill, then you can't play Doomhammer. And it's like, when are you going to ever play Doomhammer?
Even Doomhammer has Overload also. But, yeah, playing a Doomhammer, I get, okay, so he does get it out now, and that hurts a lot.
Wow.
I don't blame him. He does have to play his hand, and right now, his hand doesn't have a lot going on besides the double Doomhammer. So,
man.
That hurts a lot, a very lot, but you got to do what you got to do. And now Tarei, he's going to have kind of his choice of how he wants to deal with this.
Yep, he can dissect the board as best he can, utilizing his hero power, and then put it back, the onus back on his opponent to be able to deal with his minions, which this Spectral Knight, again, doing work. It's just so hard to remove.
He is in full control now. Rolling something like a Spell Power Totem and Lightning Storming both minions for 4 is one of the only ways to sort of keep up with this current board. And even that would overload him again for next turn.
The overloads. choosing Drake is a very passive play.
Well, he must figure that his current hand is not a winning hand.
It's not.
So he might as well Drake and see what he draws, even if it means that he's going to end up losing the game. He's figuring that he was more likely to lose with his current hand anyway, and so he's looking for something that maybe can dig him out, whether it exists or not.
He does have damage in hand, right? Lava Burst, Lightning Bolt, and the Doomhammer's going phase does give him a slight ability to race, but there's still no clear end to the woods, as his opponent also has the ability to race with Savage Roar.
Right. Obviously, he's playing against a Druid. Druids have often a lot of burst potential built into their decks. Tarei's deck is not any different from that. It absolutely is what it's trying to do. But even right now, he has a lot of options. He could heal with Ancient Allure. He can clear things out. There are a lot of ways for him to win this game. Chakki is trying to just push in for damage, which is probably his best chance. He doesn't have many ways. He has maybe one way.
Do you like dropping Loatheb to try and seal a position where you can go for a finisher the next turn? Or do you feel like that's too optimistic?
It might be too early for something like Loatheb. You could go for it, but there's a really good chance you wouldn't actually be able to win with Savage Roar next turn.
Sure.
I think trading for the 4/4 in one way or another is very important, and you could do that and play Loatheb, although Loatheb could even be better next turn. So
that's true.
Something like Druid of the Claw or something like that, or even just playing Ancient of Lore and healing and trading. But this is still really, really strong. He's almost certain to not be able to end the game next turn, but he is maintaining his advantage, which is probably why he decided to play the Loatheb. It does maintain his advantage very well, and there's even a Rockbiter right there.
Well, he's got the direct answer. He can Lava Burst and shut down this Loatheb. And I guess start whacking away and working on it, but you are losing some of your burst potential, and you're still overloading.
If he Lava Bursts the Loatheb, he almost certainly will not have enough damage to win the game. He's not left in a very good position here. If Loatheb had not been played and no like Taunt Druid of the Claw or anything like that, he probably would have just gotten in there with Rockbiter for as much damage as he possibly could.
That's true. Rockbiter is 10 damage plus the 8 from the spells, and his opponent's at 17 health. Wow.
So he theoretically could win if his opponent does not taunt.
Or heal, or do something equivalent to that.
Even if he hero powers, is that enough? No.
No, if he used like Ancient of Lore to heal or something. Something equivalent to that. He does have the ability to survive.
So Savage Roar, though, of course, again, not enough to win, even if the taunt were not in the way. The Argent Commander is a very strong card in general against Shaman. It is a 2-for-1, and that is one of the things that you usually need. But this matchup, this particular game, has not been about resources so much as it has been about board presence and aggression. So the Druid player obviously in the lead in that department.
Yeah.
But if Tarei doesn't defend himself, he could end up just losing.
It's tempting sometimes to play a little bit more of an aggressive route considering you have Savage Roar, so you feel like you set up more aggressively, but he needs to taunt up or heal.
I think that's probably the decision he will end up with, even though it doesn't let him win as immediately, and it may not seem like an aggressive enough play. I wonder how aggressive he will play here. It is definitely a difficult choice. Perhaps even there is no clear answer, but the safest thing to do would be to just keep himself safe.
Hold on, he still might be tempted to draw cards, but he does end up going for the heal, the right play. An excellent read by Tarei. He's at 22.
Rockbiter number 2?
That would be insane. Wait, hold on.
Rockbiter number, okay, so he has the 2 damage. His opponent's at 22. He has 20 damage.
If he rolls a spell power totem?
Does he have enough mana to play everything if he does that?
5 mana to play his spells, and then roll 2 for the spell power totem.
It would have to be spell power totem for exactly 22.
25% chance to end the game.
Considering how far behind he's been in this game,
I know, that would be bananas.
I'm honestly pretty surprised that he even has a 25% chance.
Oh, the moment of truth.
Well, now he's going to try and do something like Lightning Storm and clear things out. But
Lightning Storm, Defender, Vargas Push, something equivalent to that.
Yeah. It really is his best play at this point. His opponent can still taunt up next turn, though. So this really still does not leave him in a very good position, a very weak position, in fact. And so it's very, very scary if you're sitting in Chakki's spot. Tarei could still misplay. That is possible.
It's true. He could be reading something else completely different than what Chakki is signaling.
But even just playing Druid of the Claw or Argent Commander plus Savage Roar could end the game if Chakki just sits behind these taunts, which it looks like is what he's going to do. So he's not even going to use his minion to clear anything out. Okay, he does kill a minion. All right, so that may even keep him safe. But it does overload him as well, so he'll only have 8 mana next turn.
But he's got Rockbiter Lightning Bolt.
He does have Rockbiter Lightning Bolt and another Doomhammer, which would be a pretty big surprise to see number 2. Will be a big surprise to see number 2 come out.
That would be crazy.
If he draws something like Rockbiter number 2, that's still another way that he could just win the game.
That's true.
What to do?
I don't think Tarei has a line to win here this turn. So he has to decide if he wants to do something like play Cenarius and be safe, or if he wants to play a Druid of the Claw and be safe, or if he wants to cycle his Wrath and look for a better play. These are all options that he has available to him. None of them win the game immediately. And at this point, considering he may feel like he's still ahead, he might just do the safest thing.
You already saw the Doomhammer be used. What else are you afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, Alakir's 8, and he knows his opponent is overloaded next turn.
If you just clear board, what's the harm in it until Doomhammer number 2 comes out and smacks you back into Pre-Naxxramas?
Yeah. Well, he decides to play a taunt, so he does put up the taunt. That is the safe thing to do.
Wow, and very strong reads from Tarei to sense this. Like, most Druid players would feel already in a false sense of security.
It is maybe a little bit of better safe than sorry going on. And he still can't decide how he wants to clear out the rest of the board, so.
Okay, well, if he clears, even if he does, I believe there's still opportunity. Is there Earthshock to end the game? Oh, no, he can't, because he is clearing out with the Wrath.
So he would be 2 damage short if he draws Earthshock. So he's going to have to get some big Lightning Storm play here in order to somehow stay alive. And all he draws is a Haunted Creeper.
That's pretty weak for Chakki.
Even if he gets a Spell Power Totem and Lightning Storms and hits 4 on the Druid of the Claw, he would have to Lightning Bolt it. I'm not sure how he wants to proceed here.
Yeah, it's tough because then the Lightning Storm has been used, which means Cenarius puts out his 2 taunters and makes it difficult for the Doomhammer still to get by. And he doesn't get Spell Power Totem, so Chakki ends up going for it, and he rolls low on the Druid of the Claw.
No, he rolled high.
Oh, he rolled high. My vision is
slid
really bad.
over under the 2.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was good then.
Yeah.
Complete miscall by me.
Well, he clears everything out. He's even more overloaded than he was before. So now that the Lightning Storm is gone, he's bouncing over towards Cenarius. He's very tempted to just play Cenarius. Pretty good choice.
Yeah.
Shade is also okay. He might as well.
Your opponent's been on 2 cards though, so it's like how defensive do you still feel like you need to be?
Yeah.
Wow.
Even if you assume that they're holding Alakir Rockbiter,
you don't die.
They only have 7 mana next turn.
Right.
They can't even play the Alakir, much less the Rockbiter with it.
This is such defensive safe play. And it's
really
funny because you
is.
were saying the Druid is the aggressor normally in the matchup, but when the Shaman's the one trying to burst you out of the game, the roles have completely reversed.
Oh man. I think that's game. I think that might be the end of it.
And the Savage Roar with the Argent Commander puts him out.
Yeah. He can just play a guy, play Savage Roar. The Fire Elemental is going to take out one of the taunts here, but that's not going to be enough.
What if you Doomhammer and attack the 2 taunts?
Okay.
Does that put you out of range?
14
14 health remaining, and then there's 9 plus 6.
No, you're still dead.
No, you're just barely under.
That is what he's going to do, though, and he figures this is his best chance, and almost certainly it is, but it's going to end up as long as Tarei sees it.
Tarei should see it, and that means we have a tied series going to Game 5. as Tarei will realize he's got lethal.
Well played.
There we go. Making his way around the wheel of emotes.
Around the wheel.
Well, I don't think there's a way to BM more than just these 2 cards. As that will do it. Tarei evens it up. We're going to game 5 tied up.
Game 5 will be Druid versus some kind of rogue, probably Miracle. Chakki had the early 2-0 lead. Tarei brings it back all the way to take it to a game 5.
Yeah,
Druid
absolutely.
holding it down.
So then Chakki is left with his Rogue deck against the Druid. Rogue it is, to be honest. I think whenever I see Rogue, I always expect it to be Miracle, but you know, a couple times I've expected
something like Miracle Rogue, which it looks like they are, Shiv and Assassin's Blade. I guess Assassin's Blade can go in both, but the Shiv at least especially, we'll see what other cards he mulligans into, but I'm going to assume that this is some kind of Miracle. Blood Mage Thalnos too.
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption, definitely. The Miracle Rogue prides itself on drawing the cards, and getting the coin early is nice. Having things to do early is good too. The fact that you have minions to drop.
Speaking of having things to do early, this Druid player, Tarei, Druid deck, not having anything to do early.
Well, that's what the hero powers are for. At least that's what they were originally intended to do.
And even an Earthen Ring Farseer here from Chakki's Miracle. We've seen a few versions of Miracle recently that haven't had Earthen Ring Farseer and have been as aggressive as possible with just sort of what they're trying to do. He decides to coin out the Earthen Ring Farseer, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I would expect at least to be slightly more aggressive with the SI7 since you have 2. And then the Farseer gives you more options if you need to heal like a minion, for example, if you're challenging a Haunted Creeper.
3 mana. Oh, wow, he's got Violet Teacher too. Very cool. So very minion-based Miracle. It's not this burst Miracle that we saw with probably the Cold Light Oracles and stuff like that. This one tries to use... Right. It tries to use all the ridiculous, miraculous things it can do to snowball a board that can just win the game, instead of just having this from-hand burst.
All right, well, I'm not opposed to just dropping SI7 Agent, putting on more board. That's the name of the game. It just make you a little bit wary. He's like, well, he hasn't done anything the first 3 turns. Is it an awful hand, or is he just waiting for me to do something?
And he draws a swipe, which is a welcome draw. It takes out one of the minions, knocks the other one down into range of one of those Keeper of the Groves. But it's very possible that this Violet Teacher will go unanswered next turn. And that will be a big, big problem for Tarei.
Yeah, you don't want too many minions being spawned off of the ability of the Violet Teacher creating the 1/1s, but you don't have a choice. There's no way for Druid to answer it. That 5 health is the sweet spot against a class like this who doesn't have that spot remove that we were talking about as easily as it comes to other classes.
The good news here is that he did draw another swipe. That is going to be a pretty big help, because now he'll be able to next turn kill supposedly the Violet Teacher along with his hero power and any of the 1/1s made.
No, that is true. Chakki just starting to pick away a little bit at the Druid's health. It's important to do that, but keep in mind, with Violet Teacher in the deck, that heavily implies there's not a lot of chargers. And even then, Shadow Step might not even be in the deck anymore as well. So you're going for more of a board-centric approach. You have more minions, and disabling the minions of the Miracle Rogue player, and they never hit Gadgetzan is a very real possibility for the Rogue deck.
Yeah, it does look like he's not going to have any huge burst of damage that's going to kill the Druid really, really soon. Even just this swipe and hero power killing the Violet Teacher, leaving a 3/2, he may be able to sort of start winning on resources as the Druid here, and that really means that the Miracle player will need something like Gadgetzan Auctioneer very soon if they want to really sort of stay ahead.
Oof, second sap is not it. And that prompts Chakki to hover over Blood Mage Thalnos just to get a draw. He needs something.
Considering how minion-based his deck appears to be as far as Miracle Rogue decks go, I have to imagine that he's a bit disappointed with this draw. He's holding double sap, Blade Flurry, and nothing to play immediately into the board. He might even be playing something like Sledge Belcher, and he's probably also playing Azure Drake and Gadgetzan Auctioneer. These are all things that he would have loved to play on that turn. Instead, he doesn't get to do anything terribly special.
Well, another board clear opportunity for the Druid. Starting to get into the lower ranges of health, but like we said, if Tarei is attuned to the metagame of like what this deck is when you see Violet Teacher, you're not incredibly afraid of like a Leroy coming out or Arcane Golem compared to what we saw before.
Right. Any of his 5 drops, assuming he has them in the deck, would have been nice last turn for Chakki. This does give Tarei a chance to catch up, and he's just deciding what his best way of doing it is. He used 1 Keeper of the Grove last turn. He's in the same position here where he could use Keeper of the Grove to kill the 3-2, the same as he did before, and maybe even just hero power out that Blood Mage. The Blood Mage will represent another card. I don't think he's going to use Keeper to silence, just because he doesn't want to take that much damage. So he does indeed. He uses Keeper, he takes out the 3-2, hero power Blood Mage. This is going to give Chakki 2 draws now between the Blood Mage and his natural draw. And this is going to be a big deal about whether he wins or not.
He needs to pick up Gadget Sand.
Oh, it's just a Farseer, and it'll put him at 30 life, but that's not what he wants to be doing. He needs damage, he needs resources, he needs stuff.
Well, he's got a little bit of damage, but he's still searching for some kind of way to get through the rest of his deck. I mean, that's what the basis of this entire rogue archetype is on. The Auctioneer, cheap spells, preparation to get out all these spells. If he gets the Gadget Stand, though, brand new game, but he is running out of time. Eventually, Druid will just start overwhelming him, because look at what kind of resources are at his disposal.
We mentioned it a little bit before the match started. Miracle Rogue does some of the most powerful things in the game, but Druid is the deck of consistency. Right now, he's going to use his Argent Commander. He's going to just take out that 3-3. This leaves him finally with a board for the first time in the game to his opponent's nothing, and a real threatening presence. So what happens next is hugely important. Assassin's Blade is pretty good.
Assassin's Blade, oh my goodness. That is a lot of damage, 20 from just the deadly poison. And of course, you can combine it with the Blade Flurry for a massive amount of AoE if it ever gets too tight.
And what this means is that unless his opponent he probably will play something like Cenarius next turn to get 2 taunts in the way and try and waste charges. But if Chakki were to draw something like Eviscerate, he can end the game next turn.
Right, because he's got 2 sap.
No, don't sap. Oh, too bad.
He's got 1 sap.
He should have held the sap. I'm not sure why he sapped that there. That actually will leave him open to not being able to make it through and win the game if he does draw something like an Eviscerate.
How much do you peg your opponent to have these scenarios, though? I think he's worried about combo.
I think he was too, but he was not dead that turn. And I guess he's just trying to buy an extra turn, but right now he won't be able to use the extra turn unless he draws something specifically like Gadget Sand.
Right. I mean, his opponent was holding 6-7 cards. And in fact, he is holding half the combo, so there was a possibility of just dying if he didn't sap the Argent Commander, but it's like you said, you're surviving, but then are you giving up your chance to win?
Yeah, I think it removes too many outs to be worth it. You're unlikely to last a bunch of turns anyway, and playing to the outs that you have might be the best thing to do.
The only out you need is the Auctioneer. If you believe, Chakki could grab it over to Tarei and force this position and end the game. Second preparation is not it. So he's got to spend a charge attacking this 2-2.
He does, and then now he really will be in danger of losing to the combo. So if he was worried about it before, well, it's in front of him now. Now he just has to hope his opponent doesn't have it.
God, the quantity of taunts is what's really annoying, not the quality. Well, there's no other alternative, and you say that, Osap. I mean, you have preparations to load up whatever mana you have, so it's pretty much next turn you can keep playing whatever cards you have, no matter what you draw.
And I think he will be just out of range of dying next turn, unless his opponent specifically draws Force of Nature. So, as unfortunate as it looks, as unfortunate as it is, the best thing he can do might be to just attack a taunt and pass the turn. Turn 9, attack pass, is a pretty bad turn. It usually is not what you want to see. You want to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff with your 9 mana.
Actually, I think if the Argent Commander comes down and you Savage Roar, that actually was lethal for the Druid player. Because then you actually had 23, and then
6.
I think that was enough. Either way, the possibility is still really high to just die. In fact, look at what he just picked up, Force of Nature.
He did. He has, that's 21? 21 damage?
That is 21 damage.
Not quite enough. This will probably prompt him just to heal hero power and hope that he doesn't die. I imagine that means that he won't actually die.
Well,
but
hold on. We'll see what can be drawn off the top of Chakki's deck. If it's a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, he can do it. It's his last chance.
Deadly Poison. So,
well,
the writing's on the wall.
I was just looking about, like, Deadly Poison. Was it an opportunity for him in the previous turns if he kept Assassin's Blade to do something? But I don't believe so. There's just no way for him to get through it. And it looks like Tarei is, by all means, has the ability to just end this game and win the Series 3-2, upsetting the favorite of the group.
Well, he's a favorite on paper, or perhaps because we know him better.
Sure.
Maybe we're starting to see that maybe Tarei is the real favorite. Maybe he's a favorite to move on.
I mean, that's what you do. You got to take out the big names in front of you in order to make it happen. And that's going to do it. Force of Nature Savage Roar will send Tarei to the winner's match of Group C.
Exceptional series.
Very well played on both ends from the very get-go. Can't believe the ending to game 1 with Handlock versus Zoo. All the way here to Tarei being able to reverse sweep with Druid. Very impressive.
Very impressive. Definitely showed a bit of mastery over the Druid deck, at least. And when he needed to, he made the great reads. And just enough to make it through the whole series with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tarei will